The radio was still squawking when the drawer slid open. Detective Mark Calder leaned forward in his chair, one elbow on the steel interrogation table, staring at the woman across from him. She hadn't spoken in almost 4 minutes, not since he'd asked about the storage locker. He'd expected denial, or anger, or tears. Instead, she had gone still. Not defensive still, thinking still. Calder watched the muscles in her jaw tighten once, then relax. Her eyes moved, not to him, but past him, toward the corner of the room where the ceiling camera hung inside its smoked plastic dome. "Something wrong?" Calder asked. She didn't answer. Across the table, her fingers rested loosely over the folder he'd dropped there earlier. Her wrists were uncuffed. Calder had done that intentionally. People talked more when they didn't feel pinned. The silence stretched. In the observation room next door, someone shifted, the floor creaked. Then the woman spoke. "Your evidence locker," she said quietly. Calder blinked. "What about it?" Her gaze drifted back to him. "You might want to have someone check it." It wasn't accusatory, it wasn't smug. Just matter of fact. Like she was pointing out rain on the sidewalk. Calder felt a faint prickle under his collar. He leaned back. "What exactly are you saying?" She looked down at the folder in front of her. "You processed the bag wrong," she said, "chain of custody." Calder almost laughed. "Ma'am, we've been doing this a long time." "I'm sure you have." Her thumb slid across the edge of the paperwork. "You logged the seizure under Officer Barnes." "So?" Her eyes came up again. "But Barnes never touched it." The quiet in the room changed. "Not louder. Denser." Calder felt the prickle again, stronger now. "Then who did?" he asked. The woman tilted her head slightly. "You really don't know." 4 hours earlier, the air outside the station had smelled like wet asphalt and cheap coffee. Late summer in Northern Virginia meant humidity that clung to everything: clothes, hair, the steering wheel of a patrol cruiser. Even the concrete steps leading into the station sweated moisture. Officer Travis Barnes was leaning against the hood of his car when the call came through. Dispatch's voice crackled over the radio. "Unit 12, respond to disturbance. Corner of Maple and 3rd, female refusing to leave private property. Caller states subject claims she's looking for a missing vehicle." Barnes sighed. Maple and 3rd meant the old warehouse strip, half-empty buildings, a couple auto shops, one storage facility that never seemed to close. He pushed off the cruiser and grabbed the radio mic. "Unit 12 en route." The engine roared to life. 3 minutes later, Barnes rolled past the rusted chain-link fence that marked the edge of the property. The storage lot sat behind a cracked asphalt drive, rows of metal doors painted faded orange. A black sedan was parked crooked near the office. And a woman stood beside it. She wasn't yelling, she wasn't packing. She was just there. Hands in the pockets of a dark jacket, looking at the rows of storage units like someone trying to remember a dream. Barnes pulled up beside her and killed the engine. He stepped out slowly. "You can't be here after hours," he called. The woman turned. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair pulled back loosely, no makeup that Barnes could see, calm face. Not what he expected from a disturbance call. "This place closes at 6, he said, walking closer. "Office hours posted on the door." She nodded once. "I saw that." "So what's the problem?" "I'm looking for a car." Barnes frowned. "Whose car?" "Mine." "Is it inside one of these units?" "Yes." "Then you got a key." She hesitated. "No." Barnes rubbed his forehead. "Ma'am." He gestured toward the rows of doors. "You can't just wander onto private property and start checking storage units." "I'm not wandering." "You kinda are." A faint smile touched the corner of her mouth. "I know which one it is." Barnes followed her gaze. "Unit C-17. Padlocked." The office lights were off. "You rent that unit?" Barnes asked. "No." Then whose is it? She didn't answer. Barnes crossed his arms. Look, if you think your car been stolen, you file a report, we'll look into it. I already did. When? 3 weeks ago. Barnes studied her face. What's your name? Elaine Carter. He pulled out his notebook. Driver's license. She handed it over. Barnes glanced at it quickly. Address in Arlington. License valid. No immediate red flags. He handed it back. Okay, Miss Carter, here's the deal. You can't stay here tonight. If there's a problem with the unit, you talk to the owner in the morning. She didn't move. Barnes waited. Finally he said, you gonna head out? Instead of answering, she pointed. C-17. I see it. My car is in there. Without your permission. Yes. Then how do you know it's in there? Her eyes met his. Because someone here put it there. Barnes exhaled slowly. He'd dealt with enough late-night calls to recognize the tone, people convinced of things that didn't quite add up. Okay, he said gently, why don't you tell me who? She shrugged. That's what I'm trying to figure out. A second cruiser rolled into the lot. Officer Delgado stepped out. What's up? Barnes nodded toward the woman. Possible stolen vehicle claim. Delgado looked at Elaine. You got paperwork? No. Delgado glanced at Barnes. Barnes shrugged. Then Elaine said something that made both officers pause. You should probably open the unit. Barnes chuckled. Not happening. There's evidence inside. Of what? She didn't answer. Barnes turned to Delgado. Let's just get her off the property. Delgado nodded. Ma'am, if you don't leave, we'll have to cite you for trespassing. Elaine looked at the padlock again. Then back at them. I think you'll want to open it. Barnes' patience thinned. And why's that? Her voice stayed calm. Because it belongs to the police department. Delgado laughed. Barnes didn't. Excuse me. The unit, she said, C-17. She slipped her hands out of her jacket pockets. You guys rented it. The humidity seemed to thicken. Barnes felt a slow knot forming in his stomach. That's not possible. I'm pretty sure it is. How? Elaine nodded toward the office building. Check the rental records. Delgado shook his head. Even if that were true, you still can't. Barnes, the radio crackled. Dispatch again. Unit 12, confirm location. Barnes grabbed the mic. Maple and 3rd storage lot. Copy, supervisor requesting status update. Barnes looked at Elaine. Just a trespass issue, he said into the radio. But his eyes lingered on the unit door. C-17. Rust streaked down the corrugated metal. The padlock looked newer than the others. Elaine spoke again. Open it. Barnes met her gaze. You're pushing real hard for someone with no key. I know what's inside. And what's that? A car, she said. Then she added quietly. And a bag you logged last week. Delgado frowned. Barnes felt the knot tighten. What bag? Elaine watched him carefully. The one from the Rivera arrest. Neither officer spoke. A semi-truck rumbled somewhere beyond the fence. Barnes tried to keep his voice even. How do you know about that? Elaine's eyes drifted toward the station's direction, miles away. You're going to find out eventually. Barnes stared at her. Then at the padlock again. He didn't like coincidences. He especially didn't like civilians mentioning case evidence. Delgado lowered his voice. You want to call it in? Barnes hesitated. Then he keyed the radio. Dispatch, request supervisor at Maple and 3rd. Elaine didn't smile. She just watched the unit door. Like someone waiting for a clock to run out. By the time Sergeant Whitaker arrived, the sky had gone darker, the heavy blue that comes just before a storm. Whitaker stepped out of his SUV already annoyed. What's the issue? Barnes gestured toward Elaine. She claims our department rents that unit. Whitaker looked at C-17. Then at her. Do we? No idea, Barnes admitted. Whitaker sighed. You called me out here for a storage rumor. Elaine spoke calmly. Check the records. Whitaker studied her for a moment. Fine. He walked to the office door and rattled the handle. Locked. He pulled out his phone and called the property manager. 10 minutes later, a sleepy man in a wrinkled polo shirt arrived with a keyring. What's going on? He asked. Whitaker pointed. Who rents C-17? The manager squinted at a clipboard. A company lease. What company? The man ran his finger down the page. Then stopped. Huh. Whitaker waited. The manager looked up. Fairfax County Police Department. No one spoke. Not Barnes. Not Delgado. Not Whitaker. Elaine stood quietly beside the cruiser. Whitaker cleared his throat. Open it. The manager hesitated. You sure? Whitaker's voice hardened. Open it. The key turned. The padlock clicked. The door rattled upward with a metallic scream. Inside the unit, a black sedan sat under a thin layer of dust. Elaine stepped forward. That's my car. Whitaker held up a hand. Stay back. Barnes shined his flashlight through the window. The back seat held a plastic evidence bag. White label. Red tape. His stomach dropped. He recognized the case number. Rivera. The bag that had been logged into the evidence room 6 days earlier. Except, it wasn't supposed to be here. Whitaker's voice was suddenly very quiet. Barnes. Yes. Who logged that bag? Barnes swallowed. I did. Whitaker stepped closer to the car. And where'd you put it? In the evidence locker. Whitaker turned slowly toward Elaine Carter. She met his gaze. Then she said the sentence that would ripple through the entire police station by morning. You might want to check your chain of custody.